Hi everyone, I am Jill A. Cabrera and welcome back to my channel. Another day, another video, another knowledge to learn. For this video, I will discuss about two of the socio-emotional disorders, namely emotional behavioral disorder and anxiety attack. But before anything else, let us first consider the objectives. At the end of this lesson, learners will be able to identify two of the socio-emotional disorders, define each term and evaluate its signs and symptoms, and explain the teaching strategies that teachers must use in handling students with this kind of disorders. Learners with socio-emotional disorder. There may be times when some children and young people experience poor well-being, feel stressed, and need help to regain their confidence and cope with issues in their lives. Schools may need to provide temporary or short-term supports at these times. Some children and young people may experience a social or emotional disability that requires schools to make reasonable adjustments to ensure they can attend school and participate in all aspects of school life. A social or emotional disability includes a disorder, illness, or disease that affect a person's thought processes, perception of reality, emotions, or judgment, or that results in disturbed behavior. The disability may be temporary or permanent. One of the socio-emotional disorder is emotional behavioral disorder. An emotional behavioral disorder affects a person's ability to be happy, control their emotions, and pay attention in school. According to the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA, children with emotional and behavioral disorders exhibit one or more of these 5 characteristics. First, an inability to learn that cannot be explained by intellectual, sensory, or health factors. Second, an inability to build or maintain satisfactory interpersonal relationships with peers and teachers. Third, inappropriate types of behavior or feelings under normal circumstances. Fourth, a general pervasive mood of unhappiness or depression. And fifth, a tendency to develop physical symptoms or fears associated with personal or school problems. Students who suffer from emotional and behavioral disorders, or EBD, often find it very difficult to control their behavior and focus on their work in the classroom. Here are 5 effective strategies you can use to help EBD students work well in an inclusive classroom. First, keep class rules or activities simple and clear. Your EBD students, as well as some of your more focused students, will most likely struggle if you impose a long list of complicated rules and demands. Try to keep your classroom guidelines broad and simple. No more than 3 to 5 main rules. Let students know about them on the first day of class and post them in the classroom as well. An example list might be on time, try your best, be polite, or respect one another. Along with simple and clear rules, there should be simple and clear teaching activities. Using activities that don't have complicated directions allows students with EBD to follow along and interact with the rest of the class. Some activity examples are responsive cards, clickers, choral responding or unison responding, and guided notes. By including clear activities in your classroom, your students will engage and interact with the lesson plan, ensuring that they learn alongside other students. Second, reward positive behaviors. While you will, at times, have to discipline children for improper behavior, remember that rewarding positive behavior is ultimately far more effective in the long run. Many students with emotional and behavioral disorder tend to take any discipline as a personal attack, and because of this, they often learn very little from it. Try to celebrate the successes of these students more than you reprimand or punish their mistakes. When they receive positive feedback and rewards, they start to see that there is a positive benefit to good behavior. They will then start to see you as a more of an ally than an adversary. And this will in turn motivate them to want to behave and do well in your classroom. Third, allow for mini breaks. A lot of EBD students lack the emotional balance and maturity needed to remain focused and on task for long periods. Instead of reprimanding these students for their lapses, build in short rest periods or mini breaks into the school day. Fourth, fair treatment to all. Students with emotional and behavioral disorders also often don't respond very well to situations that appear unfair to them. This can trigger a cascade of negative emotions and acting out behavior. To ensure that you are treating all of your students in a consistently fair manner, don't bend your established rules for any student. Enforce the expected consequences every time with every student. Allowing exceptions opens you up to accusations of being unfair. Fifth and last, use motivational strategies. Unfortunately, emotional and behavioral disorder students tend to have a lot of negative experiences in school. Therefore, they often lack the desire or motivation to try to succeed. To avoid disruptive or off-task behaviors, take some extra steps to motivate these students. Offer them incentives for academic successes, large or small. Celebrate their hard work and praise their good efforts consistently. This can go a long way in giving these students the motivation to excel in your class. While having EBD kids or students in your classroom can at first seem daunting, these are proven ways to help cultivate and keep a harmonious spirit of learning. More good news, many of these strategies for success can help your non-EBD students as well. Next, we have anxiety attacks. Anxiety attacks, also known as panic attacks, are episodes of intense panic or fear. They usually occur suddenly and without warning. Sometimes there's an obvious trigger. Getting stuck in an elevator, for example, or thinking about the big speech you have to give. But in other cases, the attacks come out of the blue. Anxiety is a common emotion when dealing with daily stresses and problems. But when these emotions are persistent, excessive, and irrational, and affect a person's ability to function, anxiety becomes a disorder. There are different types of anxiety disorders, including phobias, panic and stress disorders, and obsessive-compulsive disorder. The symptoms of this kind of disorder are apprehension, confusion, on edge, a sense of helplessness, repeated negative thoughts, muscle tension, palpitations, and difficulty breathing. Top 10 signs of student anxiety. The top 10 signs of student anxiety are emotional changes, social changes, physical changes, sleep disturbance, poor school performance, panic attacks, school refusal, tantrums, obsessive with perfection, and accustomed to assuming the worst. Here are a few ways you can help anxious students or kids in the classroom. First, practice those deep breaths. When people slow down their breathing, they slow down their brain. Slow, deep breaths are the key. Second, take a break and go outside. Being out in nature can also calm an anxious brain. Sometimes just a change of scenery is what makes the difference. Third, talk openly about anxiety. Don't set anxiety up as something you want or should get rid of. It's part of life and it's not realistic to think it'll go away completely. You can help students see and understand this in your own actions. Fourth, get kids moving. Exercise helps anyone who is feeling anxious. Anxiety can end up looking like anger, so if you see this, try taking a movement break. Fifth, try walking and talking. Building on the moving idea, if you have a student that needs more one-on-one attention, try the On My Walk activity. Sixth, focus on the positive by having students keep a gratitude journal. If you can trigger a positive train of thought, you can sometimes derail the anxiety. 7. Remind kids to eat healthy and stay well. Not surprisingly, a healthy diet and plenty of sleep make a difference in how well a student is able to handle situations that could be overwhelming. 8. Share a story with your students. Some kids may not be receptive to direct, one-on-one intervention, but they will respond beautifully if they know the whole class is receiving the same information. 9th, create a space where kids can express their anxiety. You've probably heard of classroom safe spaces, and this is a great option to offer if you have students dealing with anxiety. 10th and last one is offer individual accommodations. When we can set up our tests and assignments so anxious kids are less stressed, they'll likely perform better. Much research has demonstrated that students with learning disabilities experience emotional distress related to their difficulties. Students with learning disabilities tend to have higher levels of emotional concerns such as depression, loneliness, and low self-esteem than do their peers without disabilities. Therefore, it is important for teachers to be mindful enough with their students, monitor them all the time, set a time for counseling, and be responsive to their concerns. As future educator, I will use my knowledge about this matter as an effective tool in handling my future students who possibly have different traits and personality.